So as a quick reminder, just to make sure all of you are very aware, next week is the finale of Made in Abyss, but also, it's apparently going to be an hour long, so you're going to have like a double-length episode. So if you're counting commercials and all that, it'll probably go up to about an hour, but if you're not counting commercials, it'll be around probably a 40-something minute episode. So just an FYI, when the finale comes around next week, it should be around 40-something minutes. So just making sure all of you are very aware. So we're going to have an extra long finale that's probably going to be very emotional, maybe even set up for a potential season 2 if this series sells well. So anyways, with that being said, I want to discuss something. Nanachi. I have noticed ever since Nanachi was introduced into the anime, many are starting to love this series way more. And in all honesty, I can agree with that. Let me explain my viewpoint. When I was, reading the manga, I remember I already liked Made in Abyss. I thought it was, very enjoyable. It had really good world building. It had some interesting characters, setting, all that. It was a really cool series. But it was lacking something. I don't know what it was, but it was lacking something. And soon as Nanachi was introduced into the manga, or in this case the anime now, the series just jumped in quality. I don't know exactly what caused it. I don't know if it's because Nanachi is just that good of a character, she has a cool design, or the personality is amazing, or if it's just because the tone of the series went much more darker thanks to her introduction, or it's a variety of things. It could be all of that. But the big thing is that ever since Nanachi was introduced, I noticed that many are liking Made in Abyss way more than they did, and that includes myself as well. When I saw her introduced into the manga, I loved the series. I fell in love with Made in Abyss all over again. And when I saw her introduced into the anime, I fell in love even more with Made in Abyss because just the way her character is being displayed in the anime is so good. I once again want to compliment the voice actor to Nanachi. The voice actor is doing a splendid job. The voice acting could not be any better than what it is. Just the way the voice actor is able to give off Nanachi's lines, add this little bit of sarcasm sometimes, or weight to it, like sadness or whatever, or just showing that she knows things. Just the way the voice sounds, the way you can, hear the different tones of the voice and all that change when, she is talking with Reg. You can just appreciate that. It's just the little things that really make you enjoy an anime, or at the very least make me enjoy an anime. And I love how the voice actor is just doing such a good job with a character that really stands out for Made in Abyss. Truly, truly love it. So, a quick fun fact for you. Now, this is what was told to me thanks to a couple of Chibits when I revealed that I, read the manga and all that, read ahead. A couple of Chibits told me that apparently when the manga was getting published, now, like I said before I go any further, I don't know if this is true or not, so take this with a grain of salt or whatever, because don't quote me on this. This is what I was told thanks to, long-term readers of the series. But I was told that apparently around this time when the manga was, getting to this point of the series, when Nanachi was first introduced, apparently the series was about to get canceled. Apparently, the manga was about to get completely axed because it just wasn't doing well, and eventually the writer just added in Nanachi as, a character, like a side support character, and this character wasn't going to be, really prominent in this series whatsoever. But apparently, thanks to Nanachi's introduction and how, the audience viewed her, or the readers viewed her, it made the series' popularity jump, which is why I talked about that at the beginning of this video. And it saved the manga, and is why we even got an anime in the first place. So, just a fun fact for you, if you really enjoy Nanachi, it's because, thanks to the fans that read the manga, apparently that's what saved the series in the first place. So, it's just crazy when you think about it like that. So, getting into the details, though, this episode reveals a lot of mysteries on the Abyss. Clarification, so to say. Now, before I get into the Reg and the Nanachi discussion about the Abyss, I want to talk about the first scene of this episode, when we get to see up top, above, the surface world of, this verse. It's been a while since we've really seen what's going on up there, and we kind of got a status update. The little boy that, kind of gave, Rico and Reg their farewell and all that, way by and all that, and he was sick, we finally found out what was going on with him in this episode. So, as we know, this episode was called, the truth of the Abyss, or, how the Abyss works, basically. I forget the exact title of this episode, but basically it's clarifying how the Abyss works. And we found out that you know, if you try to go back up, you know, it's like going into needles. You're just like stabbing yourself trying to go through like this big blanket. And in this case, we could see that people on the surface world are also getting affected by the abyss. The boy that is right on the top part of the abyss, he was getting sick and getting closer and closer and closer and closer to death. But as soon as he was moved away from the area, he got into the water, away from the abyss, he was fine. He was running a fever, it looked like he was on death's door, but as soon as he was moved away from there, he was completely healthy once again, which is very strange. And us, as the watchers of the series, or the readers of the series, it's instantly obvious what's really going on here. You could assume that whatever is going on here is that the abyss is having an effect on the child, and that it is actually killing people on the surface, which is very strange, because from what we know of when it comes to the abyss, the, you know, higher up you go, it's the less amount of, like, curse that will affect you. For instance, if you're on the first layer, you'll just get a little bit of nausea and all that, and, you know, headache, and that's basically it. You go another level, it gets a little bit worse, down another, try to go up, it gets worse, so forth, so on. And as we know, if you're on the top layer, you shouldn't really be affected at all, like if you're above the first layer. But apparently, the boy was affected by the curse, which is really strange and weird. So it makes you wonder what is really going on. From what we know that was revealed in this is that the curse of the abyss is like the blood of the abyss. It's what circulates through the body, and it wraps around everything. It's like a big blanket, and it goes through the abyss and all that. It wraps around, and it moves freely as well, like a liquid as well. But the thing is that apparently if you try to force your way through it, it harms you. And so what's to say that this abyss might not be some form of massive creature? Don't worry, this ain't spoilers. Don't worry, it's not spoilers. But what's to say that, you know, the abyss isn't like some form of creature just drawing things into it and then wanting to consume it? Since we found out that the abyss is kind of like a big Venus flytrap. You try to get out of it, you're just gonna hurt yourself. It's like spikes. That's exactly what it would remind anyone of, a Venus flytrap. Just trapping its, you know, prey inside of it to where it cannot get out. And that is what's happening here. For instance, maybe on the surface layer, it's kind of like some are just affected more by the abyss and they just can't survive it, and then the abyss is just slowly draining away their life force or whatever, or killing them. And that's what could be happening here. Now, like I said, this isn't spoilers. I'm just speculating and theory crafting right now, so do not worry at all. But I mean, the big thing here is that obviously the more you look at it, is that the abyss could be some form of like big trap, like just some form of creature just devouring things and bringing it deeper and deeper down. And that's what's happening. Anyways, though, let's get into, you know, Reg and, you know, Nanachi's actual clarification of what the abyss is. So the blanket thing. We get to see a little, like, sheet/blanket in this episode that Nanachi pulls out and explains what the abyss looks like, or kind of how it maneuvers throughout the environment. You can walk through the abyss's curse like it's nothing. You walk through it and it moves in parts. It's like air, or just liquid or something. It just parts like it's nothing, and when you're walking through it, you don't feel anything. You cannot detect it, you cannot feel it at all. However, with this blanket, if you try to forcibly push your way through it, it will hurt you. It's kind of like this. Let's say you have a big blanket that is, you know, tightly stitched together, and you see this tiny little hole in it, okay? There's this little hole, and you try to stick, like, your head through it, and you continuously pull it on your head, and pull it until it stretches out, and you get through it. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt a lot. But imagine magnifying that by like 1,000 times, and that's what's going on here to the people that try to leave the abyss. It's hurting you. It's like you're trying to force yourself to leave through a hole that's just too small, and it's just harming your body. Now, if you were to just, like, let's say, put your finger through the hole or whatever, it wouldn't harm you as much, because it's not like a vital area on the body. But if you do it on your head, if you do it near your heart or chest or whatever, it's going to harm you considerably. And that's what Nanachi wanted to point out, is if you barely go up, it's not going to harm you as much, which explains why some could probably move up their hand and it doesn't affect them, because you think, since ascending affects them, if they were to move their hand up, it would probably harm them, but that doesn't work like that. You don't need to move up your hand, because if you move up your hand, it's not going to harm you, it's not going to make your body feel the, you know, effects of the curse. It's only if your head ascends higher and your chest ascends higher, that's when you will feel it. So, a lot of clarification here on how the abyss works, and kind of what it looks like from Nanachi's point of view. So anyways, let's also talk about how the abyss moves. So besides just walking through it, apparently the abyss, it also moves thanks to someone's consciousness, what they're thinking. For instance, if they're thinking like, I want to move to the right, the abyss will start to move. It'll start to drift away to that direction. And that's how some creatures that can see the abyss, they can predict movement. It's not the fact that they could see the future, it's the fact that they could see the abyss moving for you before you even move, which in turn lets them know what you're going to do. And that's what's happening here. So it's not the fact that these creatures can see the future, it's the fact that the abyss just reveals what you're going to do. And that just shows right now, once again, what's crazy about the abyss. There's something really weird going on here. How you could actually make the abyss move with your mind. It's just really weird. Just thinking about something causes it to be manipulated. So, a lot of things going on here. Now, let's talk about the actual fight. You know, the Orb Weaver or whatever that, you know, Reg was fighting in this episode. And, you know, Nanachi was giving him information in this episode. So, as we know, Nanachi is like, I want you to commit to looking up. Look straight up, and that's it. Just look straight up and commit to it. And basically trust in me. And now, obviously, from this point of view, it seems really crazy, but we gotta remember what Nanachi explained. She was like, when you're thinking, obviously, things are gonna move in that direction. So if, like, he's thinking about something, he's like, should I move left, should I move right? And if he thinks hard onto the right, like, you know, the Curse of the Abyss, it'll just move out of the way. But if Nanachi's directing him, and he's like, committing straight to up, and then automatically she's like, go straight to the right and reach out your hand, there's not enough time for the abyss to really move like that real quickly out of the way, because he's not lingering on it. His mind isn't wandering over and thinking about what direction he needs to go. So, in turn, that makes it to where any creature that relies on seeing the abyss will not know where someone's coming from if they're being directed by someone else from an outside force, because if they're unaware of what they're going to do, then obviously their movements can't be read at all. So that's what happened here, and that's how, you know, Reg was able to defeat the creature. And if you notice, as soon as he started thinking when he was going to blast the creature and all that with his, you know, cannon, his laser, it actually managed to dodge it. So it once again shows how, you know, the actual Curse of the Abyss works, and why the creature was able to dodge that, but also not be able to dodge the other moves that Reg was using against it. So, besides that, we also move over into the main point of discussion of this episode, and that is Mitty. Mitty, her entire existence is sad. Now, I don't expect many, even myself, to feel bad for the character, or upset, or want to cry for the character, because, to be honest, we haven't been with the character enough to really get emotionally attached with. And regardless of her state and how sad it is, it's not necessarily something that is truly sad, because I know what this character has completely been through. I'm not emotionally attached to this character. For instance, if something like that happened to, let's say, Ragarico, then obviously I'd feel very sad. But since Mitty was just introduced, and we've seen her in the state since she was introduced, then not many are probably going to feel a lot of emotions to her character. It's sad, but you're not going to be, like, completely sad as if it was, like, a main character or something. But Mitty's entire character is depressing, because she is a girl that's been affected by the Abyss. She has survived, you know, the layers of the Abyss that supposedly should kill you, or make you lose, you know, your humanity. And in this case, she lost her humanity, and she went insane. She no longer is what she once was. She no longer can talk. She no longer is even the same shape she once was, and she no longer can even recognize what's going on around her. You can clearly see that. And you even see in this chapter, or episode, sorry, it's a habit, in this episode, when Mitty gets on top of, you know, Rico, and Rico's unconscious, we see a little vision inside of what's going on in Rico's head, since she's unconscious, and you see this just pitch black darkness. There's just nothing. And you see Rico just, like, encased in some form of, like, meat sack, which is very disturbing. It's disgusting. But she's, like, encased in, like, some form of meat sack, just covered around, and all she could do is see. But she's encased, and she can't move or anything. But she hears this girl crying. You could hear cries in this episode. Someone just crying. And you see this hole in the wall of the darkness with this eye peeking through. And you could assume, since the eye is very similar to Mitty's, it's Mitty. And you hear crying. And then Riko, she was sitting there staring at him, and the scene ends. So there's a lot going on there, and it just shows that maybe whatever was going on with Riko could also be what's going on with Mitty. So I guess it's time to wrap up this video. So before I end it, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for, constantly commenting and all that. Leave a like if you liked the video. Also, if you want to support me and all that for future videos, go down in the description and support me on Patreon. I truly appreciate it, and I love you guys so much. Thank you so much. Chibi out.